Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for being here today to our another Facebook Live. I'm Jim Roman, national speaker and business coach. I specialize helping companies go from micro to millions while having a life. And I'm super excited that you have joined us today. Today we'll be talking about strategic planning. It's a difference between business planning, which you put together to give to a bank to get funding. Strategic planning, or creating a strategic map, is about creating a business and a life in the process. So I want to welcome you all to being here today. So as we welcome everybody on the call, I'm going to give you a couple of suggestions to get us started. Number one, throughout this recording, throughout this process, I would love for you to comment below any questions, clarifications, or things that you would like for me to cover. For those of you, this is your first time joining us on our Facebook Live for Building a Better Business to Building a Better Life. I talk for about 20 minutes on a particular topic, and then I finish up that topic just in case you have to leave early. And then I go into the comments and I look at the questions and things like that. One of my team members are monitoring the comments at all times. So if you, again, want to post something there that you want me to recognize, I really appreciate that. As always, if we don't cover your particular challenge in this Facebook Live, I encourage you to comment below, message me, or even email me, and all that information will come as we go through today's talk. So again, I want to welcome everybody here today. So today we're going to be talking about strategic planning. What is strategic planning and how is it different from business planning? Given the COVID situation that we're in right now and given what we're trying to accomplish, a lot of businesses have gone out of business. A lot of the businesses have slowed down. And then others are operating as normal except under the certain safety rules and requirements that they need to be monitoring and managing at all times. So what is a business plan? A business plan is a plan that you give to a bank to get funding. What's great about a business plan, as I see it, is it gets your thoughts down on paper. What I don't like about a business plan, it is not designed to help you run your business. Nor is it designed to help you to be successful in business. So again, a business plan is great for funding. It's great to get your thoughts on paper, but a strategic map, a strategic plan as we see it, is designed to not only build a business, but to also build your life in the process. And I will go through those components of a strategic plan as we see it, and ultimately create a strategic map. A MAP is an acronym for Move to Action Plan. In other words, get you to take action on those things you know you need to do, but maybe you're not doing it because you're not driven. Maybe COVID has slowed you down. Maybe you lost hope or your spirit is busted. And hopefully today I can hopefully lift that spirit, give you some tools and tips to be able to plan out not only your business now, but in the future, along with your life as well. So again, I want to welcome you for being here. So let's jump into what are the components of a strategic plan or a strategic map. Number one in a strategic plan or a strategic map is understanding what drives your business success. What drives your success? And one of the ways of figuring out what drives you is figure out where you are today. So one of the things we've talked about in a previous episode is the 9 stages of business ownership. And the 9 stages were first introduced to me by Mort Murphy and John Heaton out of Ireland. And they talk about how a business for small businesses, micro businesses, in the beginning stages owns you versus you own it. And if you don't own a business, but you're a manager, usually the business is managing you and you're not managing it. So one of the first steps that I would do in creating a strategic plan, a move to action plan, is number one, understand where you are today and where you want to be in the future. And I recently wrote a blog on that, the 9 stages of business ownership, Beyond Broke and Really Broke. So if you wanted to look at our blog at Jim Roman Online, click on the blog section, look under the article Broke, Really Broke, the 9 stages of business ownership. Because I believe you need to understand where you are today in the development or the evolution of your business, or if you're the manager of that business, where do you stand? And then where do you want to be in the future is very, very important. So that's one of the first steps in creating a plan, a map, if you will, is understanding where you are and where you want to go. Number 2 is, again, going back to what drives you. Again, if you've ever heard me speak, I always talk about the 5 drivers to business success. And especially for today, when it comes to planning, there's 3 of the 5 drivers that are very important. And I won't go into too much detail because, again, I've covered that in previous episodes. So feel free to check that out. In fact, you can go and check out our product on this subject called the5drivers.com. but I'll just give you a quick overview for those of you who don't know what the 5 drivers are. These are the 5 drivers that I've uncovered and discovered in working with thousands of companies, that when they have these drivers identified, they tend to be more successful. The first 3 drivers are why, what, and where. Why do you do what you do? What is your purpose and passion behind your product and services? When I ask people why do they do what they do, the number one answer is for the money. And then if I dig deeper, they really don't think about why they do what they do. It's just a job. And I think that if you're going to create a plan, you're going to create a map, a move to action plan, you're going to want to know what drives you. So number 1 is why do you do what you do? Number 2 is where do you want to be beyond the business? What are your dreams and aspirations? When I ask people what their dreams and aspirations are, so often they say, I don't know, I'm too worried about today. If you were to guess some of your dreams and aspirations, they would say, well, maybe travel. And it's interesting how we've lost our way on where we want to go beyond the business, the dreams and aspirations. And again, I think that gets in the way of us creating a massive plan to get massive action. And then the third driver of the 5 drivers is what? What do you need your business to look like, feel like, and act like? And I think this is really, really important to the planning process, because so often people don't think about what their business looks like today, let alone what it looks like in the future. And so I want to take a moment, and hopefully you brought some pen and paper with you, because I really want this to be an action-oriented workshop today, or a talk today, is the 3 questions I would want you to ask is, why do you do what you do, your purpose and passion? Where do you want to be beyond the business, your dreams and aspirations? But for today, I want you to take a moment to reflect on what do you want your business to look like, feel like, and act like. In other words, what do you want it to look like in the future? What is your ideal state? And if you check out my video on YouTube, I went into this in a previous episode about what do you want your business to do for you? What is your exit strategy? What is your succession plan? By the way, next week we'll be talking about succession planning. Whether you own the business or not, you should have a successor. You should have a succession plan. You should have an exit plan of your position or your business. But for today, I just want you to take a moment to ask yourself, what do you want your business to look like in the future? Do you plan on having 1 employee? 5 employees? Do you plan on having 1 location, 3 locations? Or do you plan on it being just a lifestyle business, make you enough money to be able to get by, which is okay, but ask yourself, what do you want your business to look like in the future? I think a lot of us don't think about the future very often. And I always like to say, if you can see it, you're most likely to achieve it. Napoleon Hill, in his book, Think and Grow Rich, he says, if you can dream it, you can achieve it. So it's a little play off of that. So I want you to think for a moment to reflect on what you do today. What do you want it to look like in the future? What does your business look like today, whether you own it or manage it? What do you want it to look like in the future? Write that down. Take a moment to write that down. So hopefully you're understanding when you start to build a strategic plan, a move to action plan. Number 1 is understand where you are today and where you want to be in the future, the 9 stages of business, and check out our blog on that. Number 2, we're talking about what drives your success. There are 5 drivers to that success. You can go to the 5drivers.com to purchase that product, and it goes into the whole course on that program. 3 of the 5 that I wanted to talk about briefly today was, why do you do what you do? Where do you want to be in the future? And what does your business look like, feel like, and act like to get you there? And then the final piece of the plan that I really want to spend a lot of time on today is the waypoints, which is another driver. Waypoints, or what steps do you need to take next? What I find a lot of times when people are goal setting, they tend to think big, and maybe in some cases too big, if there's such a thing, and fall short of reaching their goals. There was a study many years ago in the University of Chicago where they studied successful people in goal setting and not so successful people in goal setting. And what they found is the unsuccessful people picked lofty goals, where successful people did realistic goals. Let me say that again. In the University of Chicago, they did a study of goal setting of successful people and not so successful. And the not successful people had lofty goals, where successful people had realistic goals. And what had happened was that the unsuccessful people would these lofty goals get halfway through the year and give up because they weren't even close to those goals. Whereas successful people set realistic goals, and if they reach it within 10 months, they just raise the goal to the next level, regardless of what time of the year it is. And I remember an example of that with myself. Many, many years ago, I was in Richmond, Virginia. I remember exactly where I was. It was in the west end of the city. I was having a cup of coffee, and my mentor called, Lisa. And Lisa said, hey, Jim, how are you doing? And if you know me, I'm doing great. But today I was going, I'm doing okay. She said, you don't seem as chipper as you normally are. And I said, yeah, probably not going to reach my goals this month. And she said to me, what do you mean? I said, well, my goal is to get 60 new members, and I'm only at 30 new members. I'm just halfway, and we only have 10 days left in the month. She says, where'd you come up with 60? I'm like, what do you mean when I come up with 60? My goal is 60. She goes, I thought your goal was 40. And I got to thinking, where did that come from? And I started thinking that, yeah, my goal actually was 40, but my lofty goal was 60. And if you notice in that example, true example was I was about to give up, and I'm only 10 members away from my true goal. I was like, oh my God, I gotta go. Thanks so much. And I hung up the phone and I went, and I think I got in 15 new members, past my 10 that I needed. And the moral of the story that is that when we set lofty goals, sometimes we give up sooner than we should. When we set realistic goals, create a realistic plan, we're more likely to achieve that. So one of the things that we teach our clients to do in our workshops is to create next steps. So one of the ways I ask people this, a way to come up with your waypoints or your milestones is simply this. How do you eat an elephant? They say one bite at a time. How do you run a marathon? One step at a time. How do you reach your goals, your aspirations, one action at a time? We would call waypoints or milestones. So if it were me and Harry, I'd be asking myself, what is your next step? What is the next step you need to take in your business? I usually find there's 3 areas there are next steps for you. That is either you need to bring in more business, you need to get more work done, or you need to create raving fans with your current customers so that they not only rave about you, but they refer you more business. One of the ways of figuring out your waypoint is answering this question. So I typically ask people, given where you want to be in the future, you want to be a $500,000 business, you want to be $1 million business, you want to be a $10 million business. Given where you are today, what is the next milestone? What is the next waypoint you need to achieve? So given where you're going in the future, what's the next step in your mind? I want you to write that down. I want you to comment below, if you wouldn't mind. What do you believe your next step is in your business, whether you own it or manage it, you need to take to be able to do that? Okay? So I want to go into specifics. I'll use examples of this because given where everybody is in the process, each person might have a different challenge. So again, for planning purposes, you want to know where you are, where you're going, understand what drives your success, and then what are the next actions, next steps, the next waypoints you need to take. And typically they are in the areas of bringing in business or getting the work done or creating maybe things. For example, say that you want to generate another $100,000 of revenue. That's your next waypoint. And your biggest challenge is, how do I go about getting that? So I have a couple examples here. For example, one of my clients was a contractor, remodeling contractor, and he needed to be able to bring in business. And one of his next steps, his next waypoints, his next milestones was to figure out who to target in his clients. I find a lot of times the reason why people don't hit their revenue goals or their sales goals is for several reasons. Number one, they don't have the right target market to the person who's not only willing to buy, or is willing to, that needs and wants it, that's willing to buy. So for example, this remodeling contractor we were working with, his average sale back then was less than $3,000. We did the math as to how many deals did he need to make to hit his revenue goals. And he said he had to do at least 18 jobs a month, 18 remodeling jobs a month to hit his numbers. And he's like, well, I can't do that. There's no way I can do 18 remodeling jobs in just 1 month. So the coach started to crunch some numbers and said, well, if you raise your average rate to $6,000 or more, in this case, $8,000, you only have to do 4 more deals a month. And he's like, well, I could do 4 easily. And I'm sorry, 6, it was 6 more deals a month. And he said, oh my God, I could do 6. I can't do 18, but I could do 6. And so from that point on, what he did to reach his next waypoint, his next milestone, his next action was to target contracts that were $6,000 or more or higher. And then the $3,000 or lower, he would do, but not for a very long period of time until he can get $6,000 or more jobs. And that company went on to become $1 million company. And I truly believe, other than getting the right people in the place to get them to perform, knowing his target market, his sweet spot, his average sale that he needed to hit was the determining factor of him being able to do that. So he figured out 3,000 and below, not that great. 8,000, 6,000 and above, ideal. Again, became $1 million company. Another example of someone who needed to bring in business was somebody who owned a flooring store. And they were in our life goal program, our lifetime goal program, and they were figuring out how much revenue do they need to produce to have the cash flow to live the life that they want. I won't go into the whole story, but ultimately we did the math that based on the kind of lifestyle that they wanted to have, divided by their average sale, they only had to do 8 more deals a month or 2 a week to have enough revenue to not only cover the bills, but to be able to have the cash left over to live a better life, to be able to travel, to be able to enjoy their life. 8. They only needed 8 more deals. And when they figured out that they only needed to do 2 more sales a month, and if they did the 2 more sales, they would be able to do it, then oh my gosh, they were super excited, because before we knew the number, they were like, I don't know if I can do it. 2, oh my God, I can easily do that, to go on to become $1 million company. Now, I keep on bringing an example of the $1 million company. It doesn't matter if you're going to $250,000, $500,000, 2 million, 3 million. Knowing your numbers is one of the key factors in taking your business and part of your planning process that most people don't do. Whether it's the number of appointments, your average sale, your closing ratio, the number of deals that you need to make. And so I would encourage you that if you are looking to, your next goal is to generate more revenue, make more income, more sales, look at your numbers, and I think that would make a big difference for you. So again, if you're a person who your next waypoint, your next milestone, your next action is to bring in business, hopefully that will help you. One last thing about bringing in business. There's one of our clients that one of the challenges was how they brought in business. As you know, to bring in business, it requires marketing, networking, and selling, right? So often people just do the networking with very little marketing, and people do marketing without networking and don't have a sales process. So for a lot of times people need to have the complete package to attract the right type of target market to do business with you. Now, I won't go into too much because I plan on doing a future series on bringing in business and how to bring in business. But ultimately, if you're an introvert or you're an extrovert, you want to know that because it determines which strategy or method you use to bring in business. For example, I know of a realtor who hates cold calling. So in place of it, he does open houses. Well, he hates open houses almost as he hates cold calling. And so we had to figure out how to build a network for him so that he can network, build referral relationships so that he can eliminate his cold calling and eliminate his open houses. So all he has to do is build relationships to generate more revenue, more referrals, and get his goals. So hopefully this helps you in creating your plan and knowing where you are, where you want to go, understand what drives it, but ultimately what actions you're going to take and the next steps that you need to take. So I want to take a moment to then move on to the next area. For those of you who are a little bit bigger now, you're growing, you have plenty of business, but now you need to get the work done. You realize, I don't need more business, Jim, right now. I need to get the work done. And so there's a couple of examples of people we've worked with that help them to get the work done. Number one is how you manage your time or how you save time. I wrote an article on that, on saving time, just a couple of weeks ago. You can check that out on our blog. But what I find is that when you start to grow, your current schedule, if you will, is not going to get you where you need to go in the future. In other words, we recommend block timing. How do you block your time so you can focus on one particular topic or one particular area of your business long enough to get momentum? So often people try to multitask, and multitasking is a myth, right? It really is switch tasking. You're doing something 10%, another thing 10%, another thing 10%, and you're never doing anything really 100%. Where block timing, if you can focus on one area of your business, whether it's bringing a business, getting the work done, creating fans, working on processes, long enough to get enough momentum, to get enough done, makes the biggest difference. So how you allocate your time is one of the key things to getting the work done, so hopefully you can bring in more business. For other people, their biggest challenge in going to the next level, taking the next action, is getting some assistance, getting some help. And we wrote an article on that recently about letting go to grow. Letting go to grow. What should you let go? When should you let it go? And more importantly, how do you let it go? A lot of people, their biggest issue is they're trying to do it all themselves. And I say to myself, if you're a business owner and you're doing a $12 an hour job, then you're really not being a business owner. You should not be, as a business owner, and even in senior leadership and management, You should not be doing a $12 an hour job. You should be delegating it to other people that love doing $12-hour or $15 an hour jobs. So for some of you, the next level of your success is to let go to grow. I'll give you an example of this. I was working with a mortgage individual. We'll call him Bob. And I was talking to Bob and I said, hey, Bob, I think you as a mortgage person need to get an assistant. He says, Jim, I don't own this company. I said, I don't care if you don't own the company. You should still get an assistant. And he's like, yeah, I don't own the company. And I was trying to let him know that he loves building relationships, but he doesn't love doing the paperwork. But if he got an assistant to manage the applications for him, he had an assistant to check in with underwriting to make sure the work is getting done or that they don't need any more paperwork, he can free himself up for building up relationships. And I said, this is something to consider, because I've said many times, everyone should have an assistant. I don't care who you are, everyone should have an assistant. Well, I don't know if it was a year later or 2 years later, I was talking to Bob, and Bob called me up and says, guess what? I said, what? He goes, I finally got my own assistant. And I was like, wow. And he goes, I finally got what you said. Get rid of the things I don't like doing. Get rid of the things that other people like doing so that I can free myself up to do what I love to do, and that's building relationships with the realtors. Because by building relationships with realtors, I get more referrals, I get more business, I can keep this person employed. And so for some of us, we need to let go to grow, and that's a whole nother topic in and of itself. The article that I wrote in the blog talks a little bit about that. I plan on doing part 2 as part of next week's Succession live event. And so another article will be coming out on that. Another way of letting go to grow is for some of you, whether you're a property management company, an IT company, is managing and mentoring your people. I was working with an IT company years ago, and Jim, I told him that he needed to start mentoring his people. And his response was, well, Jim, I didn't get into the IT business to mentor people. And I said to this person, well, you're now in that business. You've built a very successful business, and it's time for you to mentor the people in your business. Unless you have somebody else to mentor them, the only person I see is you. And we talked about it for a while until I insisted, I really need you to mentor people, because the reason he said is I don't have the time. And I said, I promise you, if you mentor your people, you'll have more time. Long story short, he started mentoring his people. He got more time. He mentored more people. He promoted someone to general manager. Now, essentially, he can travel. He can spend time outside his business, and his business still runs itself. And so for some of you that have employees, and you might want to start to consider doing what we call monthly mentoring meetings, where you get together once a month to mentor them, to help them with their challenges, to have them have access to you. And so that might be where the next action you need to take out of today to get you to the next level. And then the last area, and I want to really look at the comments below so we don't run out of time, the area that you might find that you don't need to bring in more business really, per se. You're getting the work done with with delegating or blocking your time or mentoring your people. But the last area that you might need to be working on, because you neglected this for so long, is creating raving fans. In fact, I might argue that in all businesses that we should create raving fans first, because creating raving fans brings in business, and then we bring in enough business, we can hire the people or the systems and solutions out there to get the work done. So let's talk about creating raving fans, especially now more than ever. You've heard me talk at length as making caring calls. If you haven't made caring calls to your current customers, your past customers, your contacts, your community, your connections, you're missing an opportunity to find business, but also to make a difference in people's lives. I started the caring call process as early as March of this year, and I can't tell you the blessings that I've gotten. Not only have I gotten stronger relationships, stronger friendships, I even gotten business out of doing those things. If you hear my story a couple of episodes ago, I stopped doing that in July because I got 5 new clients. We were busy getting those clients taken care of, and I stopped making the caring calls, and essentially that energy also went down. So in August, I started making caring calls again, and my energy went up. The people around me's energy went up. And again, I started feeling like I was making a difference. So some things to be able to do is just creating raving fans makes a big difference. I'll give you an example. I was working with a property management client of ours, and they were figuring out a way to appreciate their investors. And so one of the things that they did, I can't go into the specifics because it is confidential, but I'll say this much. They got the team together and said, how can we thank our investors? What can we do to thank our investors for giving us their investments? And so they put together a token of their appreciation, a little gift bag, if you will. And And it was just a simple, inexpensive give back, but it was thoughtful because they put things into it. And they gave that to their investors. And the raving reviews, the comments that they got were priceless. Now, did they get more business out of it? Maybe. But I think what they got more out of it was retention. Raving fans that retain them. In this day and age, in property management industry, real estate industry, any industry, you're going to lose customers. And I think one of the ways that we can retain that customers, get more referrals, and get them to rave is to create raving fans. So I would encourage you to consider that. Another thing that this company did, which was amazing, they not only did they thank their investors, they thanked their residents or tenants, depending on what term you use. And they went about doing that. I shared an experience with me. I was at a property where I was given a token of appreciation of being a tenant, a resident of this particular business. And I was blown away that I was given a gift. And I remember when I was leasing from a commercial agent back in the day, they gave me a gift. And I realized, wow, that goes a long way to retaining, more importantly, raving people about your business. And so there's many things I could talk more about the raving fan plan or process, but I wanted to finish up with helping you to take action. Whether you're watching this now or you watch this in the near-term future, I think creating a plan, a strategic plan that has a strategic map, a move to action plan, a part of that process will make the biggest difference, not only getting through this month, but next month, but this year and next year. So I want to recap some of the things that I talked about today, and thank you for being here. Again, if you have any comments, questions, clarifications, please put those in the comments below. Please visit our blog. We have a lot of resources there free for you. I mentioned the 5 drivers. If you want the 5 drivers, feel free to go to the5drivers.com. For a limited time, I'm going to give a discount on the 5 drivers. I'm going to give you $100 off the 5 drivers guide, the course, if you will. So if you put in the 5 drivers discount code, you can get that for $100 off. And the reason why I'm doing that, because the 5 drivers guide is the beginning of creating a strategic map. It's asking the 5 drivers to your success. So again, I'm giving that $100 off. Hopefully my team doesn't yell at me. But again, you can go to the code 5 drivers discount, enter that in to get $100 off of that. And included with that is we're going to give you a free coaching session with one of our certified business coaches to help you to complete that plan so that you can be more successful. But besides that, let's recap what we talked about today. Number 1 is understanding what stage of business ownership you're in. Whether you own the business or manage the business, you need to know where you're starting, but ultimately where you want to go. Number 2, we talked about what drives business success. There's the 5 drivers, which I just talked about. Specifically today, we talked about why do you do what you do, where do you want to be, and what does your business need to do to make that happen. And then we finished up with waypoints, milestones, the next set of actions you need to take, typically in the areas of bringing in business, getting the work done, or creating raving fans. Or if you're a larger company, been around for a while, I always suggest we start creating raving fans to generate revenues, to bring in business, to afford the people, the process, and their systems to put in place to make all this happen. Because ultimately, what is my goal? If you hear me time and time again, it's to build a better business, to build a better life. So hopefully you got something out of it. If I did not cover your challenge or your comment, please email me at questions@askjimroman.com. That comes directly into me. questions@askjimroman.com so that I can clarify any comments that I made today, talk about any challenges that you have, but ultimately help you build a better business to build a better life. So I want to thank you for joining us. As I finish up, I'm going to look through the comments, see if there's anything I can respond. But again, thank you for being here. Next week, we're going to be talking about succession. I think succession is important, whether you, again, own the business or manage the business. I would be looking at where do you see yourself in the future? And so I'm going to be talking about how to do that. I'm going to be using all of the tools that we talked about to this point, because you can hopefully see that we're creating a master plan, a master blueprint, if you will, or map for you to be super successful. So as I look through the comments, again, I can't thank you enough for being here. If there's anything else we could be doing for you, please don't hesitate to reach out, again, through the comments below, through Messenger, and or through my email at questions@askjimroman.com. Again, I want to thank you for being here. I'm Jim Roman. The more you know, the more we all grow. Thanks, and we'll see you next time. Awesome. Well, there's no comments, so I will see you all later. Remember, visit our blog. Tune in next week, Wednesday at 12 Eastern, where we talk about succession. And again, reach out to us through comments, through Messenger, and or email. Love you all. Have a great day.